Hello. Hi, folks. You're on Radio FM88 Australia. We're broadcasting from the studios in Springwood, Brisbane, Australia. And we're going simulcast not only through the radio, but through Facebook and YouTube. And my pleasure at 7 o'clock on the east coast of Australia, 9 o'clock in New Zealand. And of course, it's 10 o'clock in the morning with my co-host, Andrena. And below her, once again, is another associate from the UK as well. So Louise is there. So I'll hand it over to Andrena and stay tuned so you can listen to the different platforms here on Radio FM88 Australia Facebook. You can listen to Dream the New Dream on Facebook as well. All right, take it away, Andrena.
Right, thank you, Jeffrey. Good morning, everybody. Good evening, good afternoon, good day, wherever you are in the world and wherever you're listening to. I'd love to welcome Louise. And I put out a little while ago to friends that I was looking for people that were walking their talk and creating new ways and new pathways of dreaming. And through a lovely lady called Anna, she put me in touch with Louise. But I also connected with a lady called Pam on Facebook. And Pam and I met in Burnham Beaches up in High Wycombe probably weeks ago. And funnily enough, little did I know that Louise was there on that day. I wouldn't have known her anyway, but synchronicity, all three of us were in the same place on the same day doing our usual work sort of thing. So, so I've been reading up about you and you do so much different things. I see your cats here there. To do with ancient work, earth work, shamanic work, medicine. You help so many people in many different ways. So I would like to ask you how, where and when did your journey start and this took you to where you are now?
I mean, I was definitely born this way. I remember being very little and just gazing up at the stars and knowing that that the Pleiades, and I didn't know them. I just knew this star system, the seven sisters. I was obsessed with it, and I would just yearn for it. And I didn't know until maybe 5 years ago, how special those star systems were. And I've always just felt that there was a time coming where I would need to help the world come together. And even like at 6 years old, I was obsessed with how, like, making the plan in my head every night. How am I going to get every single person in the world to hold hands? I had no idea. And the more I think about that in these times, the more I think that little girl, age 6 years old, and I spent probably a lot of my childhood trying to figure that out, how can I figure that out? What about how will I get all the people in America to hold hands with the people in India? I was really thinking about that. And then I always had like an intuition. I could see people were lying. That was very interesting as a child to know.
Wow.
Sorry, my cat is very, very, very upset. She just wants to hang out. She's settling now. I just knew that people were not being truthful, or they, and I felt, I suppose I spent a lot of time in confusion as a teenager. But as soon as I remember the first time I realized I knew something and I had to really stand my power, and it was when I was starting to be in my late teens, and I knew we were like wakeboarding in an estuary, and my friends were trying to get me to go out, and I was like, I think there's a body in here, and they're like, don't be ridiculous. I was like, there is. And I knew a boy had gone missing that night before, and my friends were being very scientific, how the tides work and this wouldn't possibly happen. And I got really upset because they were telling me I was being silly, which I'd had all my life. You're being silly.
Yeah.
And I just freaked out. I said, no, I want to get out. There's a body here. And a few hours later, my friend phoned me. He went, I'm so sorry. They found the body right where we were. And I was like, why won't you listen to me? And this was like my entrance of like the universe saying, you need to listen. you know things, and everyone's going to bombard you with facts and figures and logic, but you need to carry on listening. And then, do you remember the London bombings? You know,
I do.
the tube bombings. I'm very blessed. I have a soulmate. The universe gifted me with a solid rock, and he was very, very earthy, and I'm very, out there. So when it came to me feeling something was happening in London, we used to commute into London that day. We commuted into London all the time. I was working in music at the time. I could feel something like a shift in the force. I knew something was going to happen. Well, everyone else was just thinking everything was normal. And I was like, no. And we got kicked off the tube, and my husband was like, come on, we've got to go to work. And I was like, no, we can't go anywhere. We can't go into the city. We need to stay here. And we proceeded to argue, him needing to get to work and needing to do the right thing and do the right thing. And I'm freaking out about something he thinks I'm completely mad about. He got me onto a bus, and I was crying hysterically. I don't want to be on this bus. The whole world just looked like it was normal. No one knew what was going on. And within about 2 stops, I jumped off the back of the bus. I was like, I cannot be here. And he had to jump with me, and he was furious. And we got to his work because I couldn't get to work. And he said he was going to let me go and watch the news. Because I was like, I need to find the news. Something's happened. And he went into work and left me. And I carried on walking. I was like, so angry. How can you not believe me? Something's happened. And then within moments, it was like silence hit the city. And I remember being paused, and I knew something had happened. And it's still to this day, when you know
Yeah.
something's going to happen. And I just turned and started running back to his office, and he was running towards me and he grabbed my hand through the crowd, and he went, I'm sorry. There's been a bomb. And it exploded just behind his office. His office went.
Oh,
So
really?
I was only 24.
Russell Street, was it?
And from that point on, that inner knowing, I've had to continuously on the path to prove this knowing. I know. And that knowing took me all around the world. I was called to places like dreams. I have to go to this place. I was first called by I didn't know anything. I mean, I went on the path of becoming a healer. You can't not when you know that stuff. So eventually, I left the city and I had a child and 2 children, and I worked on radio, but I've always been healing and working with people because people would say, things. And I did. And that's when the earth began to call me. And this has been a journey of learning that Gaia is alive, and she has an entire grid and network, and we humans are part of that. And the energy that we are connecting with, ceremonies that we are part of or called to be a part of, we don't just willy-nilly just go and do a ceremony because ego wishes us to, but when we are called to, and we show up because we have a medicine within us that the grid is calling to be downloaded, we show up. And I didn't know that the earth had a grid. This was something that disappeared. As you get called, it happens. And it turns out that I was being called to the earth chakras, and I didn't know what the earth chakras were. And it's good that I didn't. The sense of innocence happened. And there are 7 chakras on the earth. In fact, there's many, many energetic nodes on the earth. And I've written 2 books now. The second one really does talk about the calling of listening and showing up and knowing that when you say yes, all will be provided. You just have to show up. And so that's been my journey. It's a long journey, and it's an everlasting. And I tell you, that knowing is, I experience the same thing over and over again. We're in these times, and I'm like, I know. In the same part of me that jumped off that bus, I like this with people going, you need to pay attention right now. and it feels like I've always been prepared.
I was in London. I was in
Say
London
again.
on the bombings.
You were there?
I was in London on the day of the bombings, yeah. And I was at the Strand Hotel, and we just walked down to the embankment to get on the hop on hop off bus. And the first bomb went off, and then I said, right, we're going to book out. So we booked out, and the phone calls were coming in within 20-second random intervals because they were knocking off the telephone systems because I thought they were being remotely controlled by mobile phones. And that day we trundled all the way through London streets, and I thought my O2 phone had gone down, so I went into an O2 shop, and Providence showed me these guys there in 3 suits. And I tell you what, I met the chairman of the London Chamber of Commerce and his mates, and I had basically a 2-hour conversation with the chairman of the London Chamber of Commerce, who was also a member of MI6 and who was also I could go into all these great details, and I think how fortuitous was I to meet this guy and then see all these bombs take off. We got told to go to Victoria Coach Station, and as we got to Victoria Coach Station, there was a bomb scare there. But I tell you what, it was divine guidance. We were well protected, and it was just an uncanny feeling on that day in London. And because those bombs that went off, we were around those places the day before on the hop on hop off bus. Yeah, that was so surreal.
The energy was palatable, and that's the interesting thing, is watching those who feel the energy and those who are just oblivious to it. And when I got on the bus, and this is the bus that blew up, it was redivert. I only found that out in my research after my book. I went, this is the bus. And because I followed it, I was like, I knew this, everyone was normal on the bus. It was a bit of a strange energy, but this guy got on the bus and he looked grey. And I looked at him in the eyes and I thought, he knows he's going to die. Why is he still here? And that's when I jumped off.
Wow.
And that bus picked us up from where we were on Baker Street. It was redirected, and it came out just behind my husband's office. Well, because I jumped off, I had to walk. We had to walk.
Amazing, eh?
We were divinely, and this inner knowing, I believe all humans have this connection, but we're so overwhelmed with that everyone's on shutdown. But it was palatable. London felt very strange that day, even before the bombings and after. During, you could feel the shifts happening. So we're in this time again. I feel the same energy. It feels the same this time, on a much bigger level. But I have so much hope, and I feel the callings that I've had. I know there is a new frequency coming through. So my job as a medicine woman was to bring the medicine that I have, which is, I bring a lot of joy, like hope. And whenever I was called to these sacred places, so I was called first to Uluru in Australia. And, it was on my vision boards. I didn't know why I was being called to this giant red rock. And the money came. That's a miracle. It's in my book. I won't ruin the story because it's a big story of how the money came. It was very divine. And then I was called to Lake Titicaca in Peru, which is where a lot of my lineage through my medicine is as well. And then to Mount Shasta in California. And there was also some other places, and I think we all get called to very sacred places, we know. But actually I got called from the Yukon River in Alaska. That was a far out adventure, because for someone, I actually just quite like being at home. I'm quite a homey person. I quite like so doing these things wasn't the most comfortable thing for me to do. Glastonbury is my home. Glastonbury is the heart chakra of the earth. I have always had to go back to the tour and climb the tour and drink from the wells and immerse my body in waters there. Oh yeah. I have two beautiful girls that have traveled with me, and actually I can't claim that it's just me that does the work, because that very strong man there is he if you've heard of the two serpent lines that move through the energy grid, the rainbow serpent and the plume serpent, if you listen to like Robert Coombs' work, who validates everything I've been doing, which is amazing. I would say that Harry, my husband, is the grounding. He's like the plumed serpent, the Quetzalcoatl of the energy. And I am like the rainbow serpent, the feminine. And when I was in Lake Titicaca, I had to go on my own. So leaving my family was big. And divine happenings, again, it was in my book, how I ended up on Lake Titicaca. And I FaceTimed him when I just by the lake, and he was in Glastonbury. And I was like, what are you doing there? And he said, I just felt I needed to come. And I was like, the lines are connected. I could feel it. So whenever even I've been on my own, like I ended up in Tibet and Mount Everest on my own, he was there, always with me. And I had a very sacred calling. I don't know if you guys were there or if anyone was there, but I got called back to Uluru on the 12th of January in 2020. I didn't know, I had no idea about there was magic happening there. And I was called. And while I was there, all of my students that I'd been teaching for years showed up on Glastonbury tour. And I was in ceremony, and it was half of me in Uluru and half of me in Glastonbury. And it felt like the grid, the energy grid, people are showing up to share their love and share their medicine and their joy and their dreams with these energy lines of the earth. And the earth is waking up to a new earth through those vibrations that we go in ceremony and share. And it takes all sorts, right? It does.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And funny enough, because like I've been back from Australia, I think 20 months now, and I was there for 10 years. And I went to Uluru on the 11th of the 11th, because that's my birthday. So it's so I went there with a friend. Yeah. And then I went for the closing ceremony. What was that? October 2019. So that was magical. So I sort of get drawn to different sites. And funny enough, I used to live in Glastonbury before I went to Australia. And I put a post out on Facebook because my journey's come to it, or my mission, I like to say, Bradford-on-Avon is finishing on Sunday. And it's like, okay, where am I going next? And I'm aware it's the equinox next week. Well, hello. I've been asked to dog sit in Glastonbury from Sunday till possibly Friday. So I'm back in Glastonbury next week. So so
you just say yes. And it appears, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, talk about trusting last minute, that I think that's the most trusting I've ever been, really handing it over. Like, my kids think I'm mad, anyway, no. But yeah, so I'd probably be on the tour for the equinox. So I should be linking in there. And I just did Avery last Saturday. I had such a calling to be at the Stones. And then Anna's given me some links in Rhode. And we went to a Fallfield Castle. So I've sort of been leaving crystals and just anchoring light there. So leaving a little trail of light everywhere. So
it's needed. And it's so beautiful because everyone's call is so unique and so different. And I know my work is to really inspire people to listen to their soul and show up to where they're called, because we can't follow anyone else's journey, because your particular energy will be perfect for that spot at that time. And it's amazing. Like when I run retreats, I don't really throw it out there. I just know the right people will come, because that we're often doing grid work on the retreats, and so it has to be the right people. And I always say to people, don't follow my call either, follow your own. Yeah, don't just because I went to Mount Shasta go there because Lou went there. It's like, no, where are you called? I mean, I did a lot of work in Scotland. That was Scotland, and the also like Glastonbury and Avebury and Shaftesbury. And Shaftesbury, Robert Coombs, if you know of his work, he's like really brought in the earth chakra stuff. I only read his books after I'd done a lot of the work. And even then I found them quite hard going to understand on a logical level, because nothing I did, mate, was logical. It came from heart. But it's nice to see someone's like practical understand, like explaining of why these chakras are particular chakras. And I do feel it. I mean, when I got to Uluru, my solar plexus was going absolutely crazy. And I feel like it has to be in the offering, and not everyone is in the place of understanding it's about you making your offering. And yes, you receive from it. But also the pilgrimage we take to these places. I'm a very different person because I had to leave my babies and go off on crazy missions. Like, it was insane. And it was hard. None of these I actually thoroughly enjoyed. It wasn't like, going off to Ibiza for the weekend and having a good time. It was bloody work. It was work.
Yeah.
And I had to leave my children. And when I went to Tibet, it took me 6 months to recover.
I bet.
Yeah. So it's not a jolly.
No. No, but it's like get more like at the moment I feel we're like in this holding bay of the tipping point. We're all just anchoring light and holding space. And it's helping people to awaken that they've got their intuition, their gifts within, and tuning in more to themselves to understand what's going on and where they're at, and instead of looking outside of themselves. So like there are more and more people awakening slowly but surely. So it's just being there to just give a like where we are at the moment, we're on the towpath. I talk to everybody, and it doesn't matter whether they speak to me or no. And I know all the dogs, and we're sort of sort of doing amazing walks, and all the trees and the energy, the trees are all on a timeline, some really ancient trees along here, so it's been really lovely. So, but going back to Stonehenge, when I came back from when we were allowed out again, I went to Stonehenge, and I thought I just felt I needed to go for the day and do my bit. But I really felt when I was getting my ticket, I needed a year's ticket. And I'm thinking, oh God, a year's ticket. Anyway, I got it. I think I've been back there 4 times already, So I've had my money's worth. And plus my ticket's taken me into the castle for free. And when I went to the Avebury car park, the car parking was free. So it's funny, you follow and you get it. And then I thought, oh, this is interesting. I can go here for free and I can go here for free. Like,
yeah. And it all unfolds, doesn't it? It all unfolds. And I know that in these times now, we are, we've all been conditioned when we go to school to listen outside of ourselves, to get that information, to get validation. It does take courage to listen, and it takes a lot of practice as well. So when I'm teaching, I'm saying to my students, like, sometimes it doesn't always have to be big all the time. You just have to learn to listen to the little nudges until you get really confident that you will listen. And I have a divine relationship with my husband. I love him dearly, but he's logical. So I've everything I've had to come at this wall of logic, and it's brilliant because what he does is actually teach me how to trust myself even more.
Brilliant.
And so he's been my push, even through these times. He will push me and challenge me, and my knowing. I have often said, this is what's going to happen, and now this is what's going to happen, and when this happens, then I'm done.
Yeah.
And then everyone listens.
Really?
Yeah. Now, and then you will have to listen to me. So it's quite a journey not having any, scientific proof of why you need to do these things, or even it will be after our lifetime when, the work that we've done, it's the children of the future that will benefit from a new Earth grid.
Have your children got inherited your gifts?
My children are really grounded. They are very connected to the music, because music is the spirit. Music holds us. They when they were younger, they were very fey and would see, they'd be like, "Mummy, you're so, I can see your aura today." And I'd be like, "Oh, what color is it?" And then they, but they are, they're their own, and they're very, very conscious. So rather than like cosmic, which they are internally, they're just very conscious of the way, you communicate with humans, understanding why humans behave in certain ways. We have very, very deep conversations. And I think that's very much more New Earth. I don't think it's so much about crystals and light beings for them. I think it's just like, understanding. They'll walk in and be like, the energy is weird in here. Or if I say I'm going to just clear some energy, they're like, yeah. And they are attuned. They can do energy healing, but it's more because it's part of who they are. It's not like it doesn't define them in their ego at all.
Yeah.
They're very grounded, and super sensitive, very hypersensitive to everything. So,
and that's lovely, because you're giving them a great start in life, and you can coach them, and which is brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, we have really amazing conversations. And they've witnessed a lot. That picture is in Tibet, and I was called to Tibet to activate the 7th chakra of the earth. And it was actually, of course, these things always work out, the day of the Tibetan most holiest festival, and I was blessed to walk Mount Kailash with these Tibetan families, and I had terrible altitude sickness.
Did you?
And my Tibetan guide said, you are here. And it was. I looked in Robert Coombs's book after, and it was the holiest day. It just happened to be that I got there. This is just how it works, isn't it? You just have to let go and let flow.
Yeah, brilliant. Right, so you've written 2 books. Have you got another one in the making?
I have.
Go on.
I am. I'm not going to share the title, because it's like it's a bit like, when you're not quite ready to announce the baby yet, but she's brewing, and it's very much about these times. I've got 2 books in. So there'll be one and then the other. They're a little bit smaller. So the first 2 are like the clunk, like, and then the third one's the trilogy, and then we're going into like the new Earth stuff, the dreamers. And so this book is the next book is going to be very much about the times. It is about women, about our connection to Gaia and the disconnection to Gaia. And basically what's going to happen now is you're either going to be with Gaia or you're not. That's that's sort of the way the split is happening. So the throat chakra of the earth, the pyramids, very, very, very beautiful. And they are and actually the pyramids, when we think about the throat chakra, and even Robert Coombs will say this, it's not always about speaking, it's about listening to Gaia. Like, really listen to her now. It's if you're bombarded by all of the illusions of all the information and are overwhelmed, the most important thing is to sit and listen to Gaia, and she'll sing through you as well.
Fabulous. Right. What else? So you mentioned about Peru as well. So that must have been quite a journey, quite an experience.
You know, when I said at the beginning, when I was little, I used to stare at these stars, and I didn't know what they were until I got. It was these 7 stars, and I remember like clawing out my window as they would sort of pass the night sky. And when I first got to Uluru and they talked about the 7 sisters, I was like, wow, they know about this star system too. When I got to Peru and I learned that the shamans were saying, this is a home. The 7 sisters, the Pleiades. And when we get to the beginning of the Sacred Valley and we're journeying home. And it was like, the pieces of the puzzle starting to come. I actually believe that even though the sacral chakra is Lake Titicaca, is all the sites in Peru. It's a big returning for many of us. And what I notice is a lot of my clients, and they might look like they're suited and booted, they're not always that, although wearing the crystals, they're like stealth spirituals. They all have either been or a deep yearning to return back to Peru. And it feels like it's home.
Yeah, and I know it's on my to-do list at some point, and I have a very long to-do list. So yeah, who knows? So just put it out there. So
it's very familiar lands. It's very familiar. It's very alive. Gaia is you cannot, in every leaf, in every person, every pathway you take, the aliveness is overwhelming. It's just incredible. You cannot feel not connected to Gaia, even if you are someone who is just out there for a party. It's very special, very special. And it feels very interesting. I know if there's a lot of limitations on people feeling like they can't travel, but you can travel to these places. You can call them in. And if there's some part of you that's always been yearning to climb Machu Picchu or go to Lake Titicaca or go to Pisac or see the Sacred Valley or go to the jungle, if those call you in your hearts, then you can sit in meditation and call them in and go there. Feel them, feel that journey within yourself to these places. They're a part of us. And more so now than ever, do not let the three-dimensional limitations stop you from going to where you need to go.
Definitely. Right. So what have you got next on the horizon then? Because excuse me, I believe you've got a new course coming up.
I am
you mentioned.
Really excited. Right. So I've been making music. Gaia at the end of last year, I was in my garden saying goodbye to the final moon of 2020. And actually, you're showing a picture of Lake Louise in Canada. I did a final activation. That was when one of my first medicine songs came through. Holy, because wherever I've been gifted sounds and songs. So I love music, but can make it a little bit. So I'm now basically going to be making the music and incorporating that into a course. The course is called the Abundance Alignment Codes for the New Earth, and I'm doing a retreat in Glastonbury in a couple of weeks, so that's super exciting. So I'm taking
lovely. Might catch up in person.
And the course really is for us to understand the currencies. I've been doing a lot of journeying through the grid and working on what the new currencies are. I did some work. Won't go into it too much. It sounds a bit far out. There is the way we co-create and manifest is going to be slightly different to the way we have done previously to get to this point. So the aligned abundance is really about, as a course, to really align with who you are and what your calling is. So it's absolute, on path. You don't need to know exactly where you're going. It's just really feeling that knowing, and then calling in exactly what you need at every point. So where, Andrea, you had to buy your ticket for Stonehenge, and it's expensive. It's like £80 or £90, right? So, but there's some part of you that goes, I know that will come, and it's really bringing all of that in. And I feel like a lot of the manifestation world has been a bit infiltrated into some patriarchal structures. It's been restructured, so it's really coming back into that divine flow and seeing the abundance. And it isn't just in money.
No, that's right.
Love and excitement and experiences. And I'm really excited. So I'm working with that, with some codes, with the music, with the Earth's blessings. And it's exciting. So that'll be coming towards the end of the year. And if anyone's interested, please just jump onto my website or my Facebook. I do chat more on my personal Facebook profile and Instagram as well. But email, good old fashioned email.
Yeah.
So that should be launched in November. So the retreat, I've got one more space left on the retreat in Glastonbury on the 8th of October. Waiting for that lovely final anchor to come in, and then the course will be in November. Probably on your birthday, Andrea.
Yeah. No, I realised that. I thought. Sorry.
What's your email address?
Oh, it's louise@louisecarronharris.com. It's all in my name.
Right. So let me think. What there was. So you talk about a lot of the ancient ways, and I think this is what we're reconnecting or remembering, the ancient ways and ways of doing things. Because I know, excuse me, like simple things is like the herbs and things. Well, every other day I go out picking nettles, and then I have the nettle tea because I just love it. It's just like, I bought the tea bags, but picking it fresh is so different. And that's not an ancient way, but it's ways that we've done things in the past, and it's all about remembering all these different skills and talents. Hello? All right.
Yeah.
So is there any sort of tips that you would give to people that are sort of thinking about different things and not sure that we can bring back and they can start to do? This is sort of going to open their awareness even more and maybe guide them a little bit more.
When we are, if we're blessed to have gardens, the gardens speak to us. Like that's we are stewards of those tiny little pieces of land that maybe we're blessed to be a part of, and Gaia's growing. So the fact that you've got nettle growing around you is going to be the nettle that you pick. And I have a lovely plant medicine teacher who's really opened me up to the plant world, and I worked with nettle, and I noticed that there was so much nettle in my garden, and I would drink nettle infusions. Very, very simple. I would put nettle in my water, and actually nettle now, as we come into winter in the UK, the nettles are quite pokey. So you get your spring nettles, and then you get your sort of autumn nettles, and they're a little bit spikier but pokier. And when they come from your lands, they're medicine for you. They're much, much stronger than buying a nettle tea bag. What I found was really curious in these times where we were getting sick and everyone's getting sick. And I would say, have some nettle tea. It's got great vitamin C and it's got some iron in for you, or make some tinctures, or even just take some supplements. I noticed a very sort of confused look on people's faces. Like, why would you do that? And there is a real a distrust in the medicine that's right here. It's right here for us, and we can pick it. And in England, we have at the moment the elderberries are. We can still go and pick some. There's some there, and we can make just a syrup, or you could eat them, or you can drink them, or you can make a tincture and put some alcohol in them and leave them for 6-7 weeks, and then use that as a medicine. It's so potent. And we've got dandelion has been great this year. And also, I tell you, a very interesting plant I've noticed has come up is rose. She has been really calling people in this year. And just a couple of rose petals in some not boiling water, but just sit. And I remember the first time my plant medicine teacher, she showed me the power of just sitting in meditation with a couple of, like a daisy. I used to connect with daisy. I know someone was saying connecting with nettles very potent, but I remember putting a daisy in some water and spending 20 minutes just sitting with Daisy, listening to all the wisdom that she had for me. Wow. And when I drank her, oh my goodness, Daisy. And from that point on, all year round, I've had the same patch of daisies. They've lasted 3 years. They don't die. Every season, I come out of my door and I'm like, hi, morning, Daisy. So, interacting with the plant world is really, really important. Like interacting with everything is alive. If you can just live a day in saying hello and greeting the river as if she was your greatest, most beautiful, favorite, wisest aunt, and say good morning tree and morning bee and say hello to the rainbows. Very yeah. And it's, if you can spend the day doing that, and even the stone people are very, 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 very sacred, keeping that connection. And notice how you change, because it's only because we when we're little, we're told it's silly.
That's right.
Talking to the trees, oh, how silly.
Yeah.
Be silly. Connect.
Exactly.
And listen.
At your shoe size. I'm size 5.
Yeah, I'm a 7, and that's I would certainly recommend just sitting and making offerings as well. And making an offering to anything is so lovely. Just, you don't need to make medicine bundles, so you can simply just sit with a tree and place your hand on it and give it your heart. Like, make offerings to everything and listen, because the more love you can give everything, or your acknowledgement, I see you, then something, you see an aliveness within yourself that may have been shut down. Yeah. My stomach's rumbling. Can you hear it?
Have you not eaten yet?
Not yet. I try not to, actually. Not in the mornings. We earn your breakfast, so my body can, not so it can process a little bit. I have had a cup today, so.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like more ancient ways, yes. So like obviously communicate. I mean, there's a couple of trees that are my favorite where I am, and I go and sit with the trees, and I've got a little reverie harp, so I've taken that up and just done a little tinkling, and I've gone past worrying about if people think I'm mad anymore. If I'm hugging trees, I mean, I was there with my marigolds on, or rubber gloves, if you don't know what marigolds are, and my scissors, snipping away at thanking the nettle for permission to take the nettle and thanking it. So and then like thanking it when we drink it, so
everything, when we look at the old ways, we remember that everything is medicine. So even each human being, I feel like I have created an apothecary of human beings. I look at my students and all the people I've taught over the years, and I am in awe in every single one of them, because they all have their own uniqueness. They're special. It's incredible. And I think then when we look around at nature, everything also has its own medicine. And sometimes the medicine is to sting us.
Yeah, a reminder.
A reminder to stay awake. But I do feel the ancient ways. And in fact, I was talking to a client earlier today, and I can feel, you know, a lot of we say the old school ravers. They want to go dancing. I was not like, I wanted to be with people with drums and dance and be around fire and be in community. And I still yearn for that, like to bring, but with my family, with all ages. And I feel this ancient way of returning back to, an ageless, all accepting society. So you will be dancing with your grandmas around a fire. I want my great-great-grandchildren to be dancing with me around a fire, handing me tea and that they've made. And we're happier. We're so much happier when we are outside, dancing, singing, celebrating, working our bodies as well. So I feel, and ceremony, giving reverence to everything. We've forgotten.
And I think, like you say, campfires. I mean, like in the past, I've gone to gong camps and all sorts of things. And, you know, all sitting around a fire on an evening, just talking, and, you know, somebody would be playing a guitar or some sticks. And I think we've lost that art of coming together, just sitting and talking and sharing. And I think that, you know, to bring that, to be able to have more fires and gatherings, even if it's small people. And funny, they had a little fire they were clearing out along one of the canal boats. And so we went along a few nights ago and we were sat around, and, you know, they had a proper fire stove there. And it was just lovely. And I thought, gosh, I haven't done this for years. Well, I can't remember. But yeah, and it was really lovely, you know, just sitting on the evening on the ground, just by around a fire.
Yeah, you know, we went. Glastonbury Festival's been a big activation for me since I was 20, and that was my first experience watching David Bowie on the Pyramid stage while seeing the tour in the background, and I knew I'd come home. And we've been to the festival year on, and many festivals. And I went to a festival this year, and that's a beautiful fire. You can see the phoenix in that fire.
I was just going to say, you can see the phoenix in it, can't you?
That's at Mount Shasta on the base chakra of the earth. And we were doing ceremony together, all of us. And so we went back to the festival site, the Glastonbury Festival site this year, and there was obviously no festival on. They'd opened it up. And it was really beautiful to be back on the lands of the site, which has held many shifts for many musicians and humans over the past 50 years. And we sat at the stone circle around a fire. My kids took their ukuleles, and it was like a returning. And I realized that I'd been to a festival the week before on some beautiful ancient lands, and the trees were not coping with it. And I asked the trees, and I could see what had happened is the trees had gone into complete shutdown as these massive sound systems had come in. It had been invaded, and the only way the trees could survive was to stop any energy movement. So they went just to sleep. And that's when I realized we have to find a new way. What we're doing, trying to get to festivals and having these sort of massive events, is we're trying to return back to this tribal essence of coming back to ourselves. But we've missed something. We've got too big. We've missed that. And so the following week, when I was on a festival site with no festival, I was like, this is returning back to fire, a bit smaller. Bring the drums, bring the, Gaia loves for us to dance around fire. She loves it. She loves it when we bang our feet against the earth and dance, because we're sharing, we're breathing, we're dancing with her. But the unconscious way, they're just getting out of it, and nature really suffers from that. So these sacred lands, for a week, where do all the birds go? Where do all the bugs go? Nature, it misses an important part of its ecosystem's life. A week is a long time for a few bugs, a butterfly. So I do feel like there's that returning. And, you know, despite we all might have very different views about these times, there is an unraveling, both dark and light. And the returning is what are we choosing to weave back now? What are we going to bring back in? And what are we going to say no to?
Yeah. Definitely. I'm intrigued by that picture behind. Is that a guide of yours?
Yeah. I had a beautiful medium who guided me as I was being called away from my home, away from my life. You know, when the earth chakras were calling, I didn't want to go. I mean, that's generally a hero's when I know when anyone gets called on a hero's journey, you rarely want to go and do it. And I didn't want to do it. And she painted this, and it was the day before we had a session, and I saw it behind her sofa, and I was like, who's that? And she went, oh, someone I painted, but they came through last night. And then she went, oh, it's for you. And she's for me. And she's also painted another guide who I'm looking at, it's on the wall at the moment. And he came, and they've been very, very strong. This one is very a cosmic guide, and both female and male. It's like my parents in one.
Yeah, it looks a very strong, powerful energy.
They're very protector, big protector there. And I've got David Bowie on the tour over here.
All right, can't quite see that one.
So yeah, art's very much. I'm encouraging everybody to really follow that art, even if whether it's singing, dancing, making music, painting, drawing, whatever it is. Right now, creativity is what's going to bring this new earth in. So even if you think you can't do it, you know, the artist who created this one has come a long way. Like she's one of her firsts. And I've watched people really move through. I'm making music at the moment, and honestly, a year ago, the technology would have overwhelmed me. It did overwhelm me. But if there's a call, just create, because it's in the art. There's so much medicine in the art for this time. So keep creating. Anything that inspires you, and keep persevering with it, because we need the art. Definitely. Yeah. Really.
And it takes us into ourselves, you know, because you're really focused on what you're doing, aren't you? You know, you're out of here and more in the heart space.
Yeah. I run a medicine wheel for 12 women. It's called it's Sacred Leadership, and I teach them shamanic practices. And in that, I said, I'm gonna draw you the journeys to the underworld. And I'd never drawn before in my life, you know. Like I went out and I bought a pad and I bought some pencils and I drew pictures of the underworld and the upper worlds for them to learn as maps, and they loved it. And it took a bit of courage to show up, you know. Oh, here's my little. I feel like a 5-year-old, but even in that expression, there is something that we grow through it. So keep drawing and coloring in and decorating, painting rooms. It's like expression. Yeah, there's more of us to come out.
Definitely.
Parts of us that we haven't even discovered yet on individual levels and on a global level. And let the art really access those parts, I feel. Definitely.
Yeah, because it's funny. I've been talking to people, and excuse me. They talking about they're doing knitting, and this lady knits for the volunteers down here and for sale, and she started up, you know, since the lock shutdown. She's been having little groups, and they sit together and do their knitting. I mean, she's 89 next week, so you know, and they're sort of doing their little bit in their own way, and gathering and talking and sharing. So, and it, you know, it doesn't matter what you do, does it? If you start coming together with little groups or your neighbours and just seeing where it unfolds.
It's so sacred. That is so beautiful. I love that. Knitting circles. It's I mean, that's it. We have to return back to the circle. And there has to be that I always say people have got to show up and learn to go into their shadows and do their own inner work so they can hold and sit in circle with others. And I think I just saw it saying, absolutely. Pam says, creation has been amazing for me. I've evolved beyond measure, expressing my creativity. Yeah. Like that's what
she's done some amazing, and it was Pam that I met at Burnham Beaches. It was our first meeting. We talked on the phone, and it was our first meeting. And then when Anna said that you were there as well, I went, "Oh my gosh, that's amazing!" So yeah, but Pam's pictures have just been amazing. Just she shares them, and what's coming out of her now is beautiful.
It's medicine. There's medicine in our creativity, even if you can just draw a flower, like a hippie flower. My go-to doodles are hippie flowers and triangles. But in doing it, it releases something and just keep pushing and expressing and pushing the edges a little bit. But I do feel like creativity and the reverence of everything being alive is what is going to bring us into a new timeline. And I know that I've had quite a lot of visions of these times, and especially a few years ago when I was told, I didn't understand it, to be honest. I get visions, and you think but you don't until you're there, right? And I was shown that the timelines were going to split, and I didn't know how that was even going to be possible. And I actually thought I might have been experiencing that in 2020 when we were in shutdown, but we were just getting on with our lives. We were fine. It didn't feel like it looked like a lot of people were struggling. And my vision was that a lot of people would be struggling and I wouldn't be able to help them. And I thought that was it. And now I see it. I'm like, no, that timeline split is now. And whatever we are weaving into, whichever direction you're going to go into, you're either going to go Gaia or you're going to go in a more synthetic path. Like whichever one you're going to go to, that's going to be your journey. You can't
that's right
override someone's free will. But when we're working with the creativity and letting Gaia express and move through that, we're weaving some wonderful
magic
stories. So it's frightening times, but also super exciting, I feel.
Yeah, definitely Right, is there anything else you'd like to share that you're doing, going, or anything else before we wind up?
I do. I've written some music. Actually, this is an interesting thing to share because I wouldn't normally, but I feel like it might be for the right person. If anyone's struggling with any health issues related to these times, I have got a piece of music that was downloaded. I wrote it in. I didn't write it. It was sent to me. So if anybody wants that, just email me and I will send it to you. I've got lots of meditation packs on my website. I'd really some pricely accessible ones, like 40 days of this, like having some medicine each day just to keep your vibration up. That's really lovely. And I start a medicine wheel again for the next lot of sacred medicine women next spring. And I've just had 2 babies born on my medicine wheel this year, the same weekend.
Oh, really?
And it was beyond. It was like watching Gaia give birth. Like it brought hope to me. So I'm doing lots of things. And if you're called, I would say just go and jump on my website, have a look, or get in contact. And I would, and all just sending the blessings to you all. Like go to the places that you're called to in your mind or on foot, pilgrimage to those places, connect to what's around you, and remember that everyone's teaching you. So just keep staying open to the lessons rather than the division. Stay open to the lessons which everyone is bringing for us right now. And,
and there's like more of a soul tribe coming together now. More and more people are finding their earthly soul tribe, aren't they, as well as the spiritual mob. So
I feel that and it's okay not to, it's okay that you don't, not everyone. Spirituality isn't like the same exclusive club. Like it's the soul tribes. You might resonate with some people and not others, and to stay in your truth anyway. Just it's not all one way. There isn't a dogma around spirituality. There isn't a right or wrong. It doesn't come with a Bible. Like it's your inner guidance. And it's okay that you might meet some people and they don't quite have the same frequency with you, but they have the same beliefs. And that's okay too. It's like we're coming into that time where we can really, I feel it like watching a natural garden bloom. Like everything gets to bloom in its own time and look its own way. And it's in harmony because everything's allowed to be the way it is. And I feel that's way the new earth is people will look different. Just because we're all sailing to the new earth together, it doesn't mean to say you'll have to look the same or dress the same or be the same or have the same missions. But we can still thrive next to each other. We still support each other in sharing nutrients and medicine. So I feel like we don't and keep away from the collusions as well. Like we don't need to, like it's very easy to fall back into those collusions where it's so, and the most important thing is that you stay in your medicine and show up as you are, even if you're a bit weird.
We're all a bit weird.
Definitely. And I'm really excited, and I just want to say thank you to everybody, and thank you for having me here as well. But everyone who's really following their own heart and their soul these times, I know it's hard, and I know people are getting challenged, and I know it's very easy sometimes to just want to take the road, the familiar path. That it takes a lot of courage to know, to follow your knowing.
Definitely. And it's like a box of chocolates, isn't it? We're all different. We're all in the same box, but we are. And we all got different tastes and vibrations.
And isn't that beautiful? And to dream a world where that's accepted. Because what we've been in is a world where we've all had to be the same to be accepted. And we've been afraid of each other because we're different. And I'm just dreaming a world where we're free to really enjoy each other.
To share. Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. It's been really a real pleasure talking with you and sharing with you. And Mark, a bit weird.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, welcome to the weird and wonderful club. But yeah, no, it's been an absolute pleasure. So thank you so much for taking time out and sharing your passion and your gifts. And I look forward to talking to you and perhaps connecting with you in a few weeks' time.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed being here. And Jeff, it's amazing to have had that same experience in London. You know, thank you so much for having me. And blessings to you.
I've been a few of those places that you put up on the map. All right. Well, thank you very much. So for our friends who have been listening, I'm broadcasting from Brisbane, Australia, and the two ladies are actually broadcasting from England. Would you believe it? The technology we have today, the only thing that's missing is beam me up Scotty. So teleportation, the new verb without having to have passports, isn't it? That's that'll be the secret. Just a few people are just saying thank you before we go, so I'll just do that, and then we'll chuff off. And so, Andrena, before we go, have you got someone lined up for next week?
Yeah, next week we have Donna Hammer Hammer. Apologise if I've got her name wrong. She's an animal communicator, and she's lovely, and she's up on the Sunshine Coast, and so I've listened to her on YouTube, and I really love what she's doing for the animals, and she's been doing it for a long time. So she's going to be sharing her stories about animal communication next week. Now, there we go.
Oh, lovely. That's good. All right. Well, we've done simulcast here, of course, through the Facebook and YouTube sites, as well as simulcast on the radio going live through free to air, through the website and through the app. So it's been our pleasure, Louise. If you want to just stay on, we're just going to go into the green room, and you can just have a little quiet chat before we go.
Thank you.
Apart from that, thank you for listening. It's been great.